Hello and welcome, Western Anatolia, a time we are living in, where the soil speaks with the wind, where nights grow heavy with stars. People do not greet the morning only for the sun. They wake up because they managed to survive one more day. In the evenings, they do not sit around the fire only to get warm. They sit to bring their fears closer together and make them smaller. In that age, the birth of a child was not considered the beginning of history as we know it today. Birth was like a small note the tribe wrote to itself. Most of the time, it was not announced outside. Only prayers were said. A piece of meat was cooked so that the evil eye would not touch the baby. People looked quietly, and in one of those quiet births, near Sagat, between the cool highlands of Damanik and the winter quarters, inside the tired but disciplined tents of the Ke tribe, a child was born, Osman. In those days, the name Osman was ordinary, one of hundreds of names. But sometimes time treats certain names differently. It does not let them be forgotten. It preserves them as if carved into stone. Osman's childhood coincided with such a time to be preserved. In the life of the Ke tribe, tradition was like an invisible rope. It did not tie the tents. It tied people. Giving one's word was powerful because a word was remembered every day. A face was seen every day, and a word stayed as alive as a face. Osman heard about balance when he was still small. When elders discussed matters, they did not rush. Judgment was not given immediately. First, one listened. Then one weighed. Then one decided. For this reason, a quick flaring anger did not grow inside Osman. Instead, a heavy but warm determination grew. Osman's father was Gazi. He was not a great sultan. He did not have a great palace either, but he was respected on the frontiers. Ertugrul's power did not come from display. His power came from standing firm, from appearing when necessary. While watching his father, Osman learned this. Sometimes war is won with a sword, but sometimes it is won with a word. Sometimes it is won with the right look, and sometimes it is won by staying silent at the right moment. A frontier Beylik either makes a person overly aggressive or overly timid. Osman found the middle ground. He learned to walk patiently, but he did not stop walking. Anatolia was fragmented. The Seljuk order had weakened. Mongol pressure was felt everywhere. This pressure did not only increase taxes, it also cast a shadow into people's hearts. Cities were uneasy. Caravan routes were uneasy. Anyone traveling from one place to another was thinking, who might appear on the road? Byzantium still existed in the West, but had lost its former splendor, especially on the frontier. The local lords sometimes did not obey the center. They put their own interests first. In such an environment, the frontier line was very important. It was both dangerous and full of opportunity. When authority weakens, those with courage and intelligence rise. Osman was born into that possibility. In his childhood, riding a horse was not an ordinary skill. The horse was like a limb of his body. Drawing a bow was not just about hitting a target. It was about controlling breath, about abandoning impatience, about waiting for the right moment. The sword was not just iron. It was the honor of the tribe. While Osman grew up with these three disciplines, He also learned the daily affairs of the tribe, tracking the sheep, the summer pasture and winter quarter order, small trade with caravans, relations with neighboring tribes, weddings, funerals, disputes. This life did not only make him a warrior, it made him someone who understood people. Time passed. Osman became young. Ertugrul grew old. Then that inevitable silence descended. Ertugrul passed away. The tribe mourned, because on the frontier, the death of a leader is not just the loss of a person, it is the shaking of order. Who would become the Bey was discussed. According to tradition, consultation was held. Osman came forward. Everyone knew his calmness. They knew he weighed his decisions. They knew he did not tolerate injustice. Thus, Osman became Bey. Being a Bey was not about wearing a crown. It was about carrying a burden. Osman took that burden, and along with it, he took something else, the ever-changing fate of the frontier. The world facing Osman Bey did not reveal itself immediately. On the frontier, everything starts slowly. No one wants to make the first move. The lords measured Osman. Osman measured the lords. It was like a silent game of chess. The moves are small, but the consequences can be great. Osman did not fight great wars at first. There were small raids. Sometimes the other side attacked. Osman responded. Sometimes Osman probed weak points beyond the border. These probes trained the soldiers and taught Osman the region. A leader on the frontier cannot walk alone. There must be trusted warriors beside him. Raiders, experienced fighters. Over time, some names stand out. These names grow in legends. Sometimes they appear in a single line, but in reality, they become the backbone. There were not only warriors around Osman. There were dervishes. There were Ahi craftsmen. There was the support of women's groups. There were people who could speak with the settled population. Because Osman's rise would not be achieved by the sword alone. Winning people was necessary. The concept of Gaza was very strong in those years. The title Gazi was not only about being a warrior. It was a source of legitimacy. Most who fought on the frontier saw themselves in a search for meaning. They wanted booty. They wanted security. And they carried a sense of belief. Osman directed this energy correctly. He did not turn it into uncontrolled plunder. He turned it into disciplined expansion. This discipline created trust among villagers. Because taking a place is easy, but holding it is hard. To hold it, the people must not be afraid. One of the things that raised Osman Bey's name was the increase in conflicts with the lords. In the frontier region, the lords also competed with each other. Osman observed this rivalry. When he found an opportunity, he intervened. For him, the most critical thing was this: at the right time, in the right place, with the right weight to stand. If a fortress cannot be taken by direct assault, its surroundings must first be secured. Roads must be controlled. Contact must be established with those inside. The people's hearts must be tested. Osman followed this method in many places. Therefore, some conquests did not happen in a single day. They were the result of long pressure, long encirclement, long psychological superiority. In Osman's spiritual world, Shikid Bali held a great place. As Osman visited the lodge, he did not only listen to conversations. He heard an idea of order. Idebali's words were calm, but their weight was great. Justice, he said. Consultation, he said. Protecting the people, he said. Preventing oppression, he said. In Osman's mind, an idea grew stronger. It was not enough to be only a fighting bey. One had to be a leader who established order. The dream narrative grew during this period. The moon entering the chest, the tree growing, the shadow spreading. This story was a symbol, a feeling of growth. For Osman, more than the truth of the dream, what mattered was the courage the dream gave him. If a person does not see himself worthy of a great task, he cannot do a great task. Osman began to think longer, to plan farther, to stop being satisfied with the day. He began to think in years, in generations. In this process, his marriage also gained importance. Marriage in that age did not unite only two people. It united circles. It strengthened bonds. It built a bridge between the lodge and the beylik. Thus, the circle of trust around Osman expanded. Because around a leader, there should not be only those who carry swords. There should be those who pray, those who produce, those who speak, those who carry order. When Osman's conquests are spoken of, one of the first places mentioned is Karakahhisar. Karakahhisar is not just a fortress. A fortress means administration, market, tax, the gate to settled life. Osman's pressure on Karakahhisar shows this. He is not just a raider. He wants permanent dominance. In such fortresses, conquest is rarely a single day. Roads are controlled. Contact is made with villages. The balances inside the fortress are tested. Who thinks what inside is tried to be understood? One of Osman's methods was this. Instead of applying directly destructive force, the fortress is left isolated outside. Its ties with the outside are cut. Over time, inside the feeling that surrendering is better grows. When this feeling grows, the sword speaks less. The gate opens more easily. When Karakahhisar is taken, the real matter begins. Because taking is not enough. It must be held. Osman tries to establish order here. The appointment of a judge is discussed. The order of the market is discussed. The measure of tax is discussed. These steps may seem small, but the core of the state is formed here. Osman's emphasis on justice becomes clear at this point. People's property is not seized arbitrarily. Life security is protected. Beliefs are not directly interfered with. This attitude especially reassures the local population on the frontier, because some lords may have imposed heavy taxes, may have acted arbitrarily. Osman's more balanced order calms people's hearts. Osman's relationship with the lords is not one-sided. Not every lord is an enemy. Sometimes there is friendship. Sometimes there is an interest-based relationship. Sometimes a lord sees Osman's rise and is inclined to cooperate with him. Figures like Koz Mihal are mentioned in narratives for this reason. New people also take place beside Osman over time. Not only Turkish warriors, but also new people who gain trust. This shows one thing. In Osman's order, more than identity, loyalty and order matter. Those who consent to justice, those who feel their life and property are secure, can become part of this structure. On the frontier, Most warfare is done with small units. There are raids, ambushes, pursuits, night marches, daytime hiding. Osman is suited to this form. He uses the land. He knows the forests. He knows the valleys. He knows the passes. The strength of an army is not measured only by numbers. Standing in the right place is strength. Striking at the right time is strength. Withdrawing at the right time is also strength. Osman does not see retreat as defeat. He sees it as a strategy. This strategy provides an advantage against the slow-moving Byzantine units. Over time, the targets expand. Balsik gains importance. Yarishar gains importance. Inagal gains importance. These places are not just fortresses. They're junctions of roads, places where trade passes, links in the chain of dominance. If Osman takes one fortress and leaves another, a gap is formed between them. That gap allows the enemy to breathe. Therefore, conquest is not placing dots on a map. It is building a network, holding passes, knowing water sources, controlling the market, making the roads people use safe. Behind the conflicts around Inagal, there is not only land, there is also prestige. On the frontier, prestige feeds the morale of soldiers. A lord's challenge can embolden other lords. For this reason, Osman wants to control some hostilities before they grow. Around Inagal, sometimes there are raids, sometimes pursuits, sometimes border skirmishes. Osman's warriors march at night, hide during the day. They tire the enemy. The enemy becomes someone who expects an attack at every moment. This fear enters even the fortresses. A fortress wall may be stone, but fear is not stone. Fear seeps inside. The narratives of Balsik and Yarhisar often emphasize Osman's intelligence. Everyday things become part of strategy. Wedding preparations are told. Gifts are told. Market shopping is told. These narratives may not be identical in every detail, but the message they give is clear. Osman did not advance only with a sword. He also read human complacency. He also used human habits. When a fortress feels safe, it opens its gate more easily. The balance Osman established with settled life in his conquests is important. Nomadic life is fast, but city life is slow. The city requires order. The artisan requires order. The market requires order. This is why the Ahi organization is important. The Ahi order keeps craftsmen together. It emphasizes morality and order. When Osman receives this support, order is established more easily in conquered places. For this reason, Osman's rise is not only a military rise, it is a social harmony success. And then Koyun Hisar, around the year 1302, the tension accumulated on the frontier grows. Small clashes now turn into a major confrontation. The lords try to come together. Support is sought from the Byzantine center. Osman's rise is no longer a small problem. It is a more serious threat. At Koyun Hisar, the Byzantine forces are defeated. This defeat says something. Osman is not just a raider bey. He is a leader who can command forces, a leader who can stand firm in pitched battle. The spirit of the battle lies here. The Byzantines want to advance in an orderly manner. Osman breaks the rhythm. He strikes quickly, finds gaps, breaks the order. The impact of such a victory is very great. The frontier population sees this. A strong army can be defeated. When this thought spreads, those who gather around Osman increase. New Gotsis come, new warriors come, new tribes draw near. The name Ottoman also becomes established in this period. People begin to call the community around Osman by his name. The name is first used like a nickname. Then it turns into a habit, then into an identity. Osman's order is said. Osman's land is said. Osman's people are said. And over time, it is said Ottoman. For Osman, the word itself may not be very important, but the unity the word carries is important, because with unity, one survives on the frontier. With unity, order is maintained. In Osman's final years, another matter becomes clear. Continuity, the order established by a leader, must not collapse when that leader dies. Osman knows this. Therefore, he strengthens the cadres around him, selects his commanders, consolidates the order. Even the sharing of booty is important. On the frontier, booty keeps the soldier alive, but unjust distribution breaks unity. Osman pays attention to this. He restrains those who fall into unnecessary pride, keeps reliable people beside him. And he also knows this. War is not only for taking, it is for holding. Holding means guard duty. Holding means provisions. Holding means winter preparation. Holding means the continuation of the market. Holding means the peasant going to the field without fear. Holding means the traveler not fearing the road. Protecting the agriculture around a fortress. Making caravan routes safe. Keeping the market alive. These may seem like silent successes, but what you call a state often grows through these silent successes. In Osman's story, small events are great. Protecting a peasant's right is great. Securing a merchant's goods is great. Keeping one's word in an agreement is great. These small things create trust. Trust is the most invisible force. People go where they trust. They join the order they trust. What grows around Osman is not only land, it is trust. As he ages, Osman's body slows. Years on horseback leave their mark. The fatigue of wars leaves its mark. The harsh climate of the frontier leaves its mark. But his mind is still awake, even while sitting in his tent, as if listening to the direction of the wind. He listens to the direction of politics, to the direction of war. Sometimes he speaks with his warriors, sometimes with the people of the lodge. Sometimes he remains alone. When he is alone, he thinks of the past. He remembers the first raids, the first fears, the first victories. Perhaps he thinks to himself, "How did I do this?" Then a quiet answer seems to come. With patience, as Osman's death approaches, a sense of sorrow is felt in the tribe. It is also felt in the conquered lands, because when a leader dies, there is a void on the frontier. But Osman does not leave only memories. He leaves an order. He leaves a path. It is said that he passed away around 1324. When he died, his name no longer described only a person. It described a structure. Osman Gazi did not see a great empire in his lifetime, but he opened the door to the empire. What opened that door was not only the sword. It was patience. It was intelligence. It was knowing people. It was taking a step at the right time. and justice, even in the harshness of the frontiers, carrying it like a compass. Now, as you listen to this story, you may feel the night grow heavier, because Osman's story is not like a fast epic. It is like a slowly growing tree. A tree does not grow in a single day. First, the roots spread in a place that cannot be seen. Then the trunk thickens. Then branches appear. Then a shadow forms. Osman's life was like that too. First, he took root. He took root in tradition. He took root in discipline. He took root in the silence of his father, Ertugrul. He took root in the prayer of the lodge. Then his trunk thickened. It thickened in small raids. It thickened in border clashes. It thickened in surrounding the edges of fortresses. It thickened in ruling with justice. Then branches emerged. Branches emerged as order was established in Karakahissar. Branches emerged in Bilsik, in Yarhisar, in Inagal. Branches emerged when the sound grew in Koyunhisar. And in the end, a shadow formed. A shadow called by the name Ottoman. A shadow people could fit beneath. A shadow that reduced the traveler's fear. A shadow that deepened the peasant's sleep. Now, we can stop for a while. We can breathe. We can look at the night. Because this story is not like haste. Osman did not like it either. He always walked slowly, but he always walked, and he kept walking. A conquest, seen from the outside, looks like a single event, as if one day comes. One day strikes, one day takes, and then everything ends. But on the frontiers, conquest is not like that. On the frontiers, conquest is a long waiting, a long probing, a long getting used to. The wall of a fortress is built with stone. But what keeps the fortress standing is the spirit inside the wall. If that spirit is afraid, the wall also weakens. Osman Gazi knows this. That is why each of his moves is not like a fire that flares up at once. He acts more like embers. He warms slowly. He spreads slowly. And in one day, it is as if the gates open by themselves. Long night marches are made. The sound of horses' hooves is softened. Voices are lowered. There is no fuss. Everything is little and concise. Because on the frontier, too many words leave too many traces. Osman's Alps know the land. They know which stream floods in which season. They know which path turns to mud in the rain. They know behind which hill the wind dies down. This knowledge is as important as the sword. Sometimes it is even more important. When a raid is to be made, there is reconnaissance first. The scout's duty is not to fight. It is to see, to listen, to understand. One must know at what hour the fortress gate opens. One must know who goes out of the fortress. One must know where it gets its water. One must know where it gathers its wood. If you starve a fortress, the sword speaks less. If you leave a fortress without water, the wall lasts for a shorter time. Osman Gazi looks at the surrounding fortresses this way. He does not look at them only as piles of stone. He looks at them like a living thing. He searches for a fortress's veins. He searches for its road. He searches for its water. He searches for its market. The surroundings of Karakahissar are probed in this way. By day, it is watched from afar. By night, it is listened to up close. Even the sounds inside the fortress matter. If there's a lot of sound in one place, there's panic there. If there is little sound in one place, either there is order there or fear. The warriors around Osman Gazi are sometimes impatient. Let's strike, they say. Let's enter, they say. Let's take it, they say. Osman, however, most of the time acts like this. First he listens, then he narrows his eyes, then he says a single sentence, sometimes a very simple sentence. It's not the time, he says. Not now, he says. Patience, he says. Patience is hard on the frontier because the enemy is near, because hunger is near, because winter is near. But Osman uses patience like a weapon. When pressure increases around Karakahissar, life inside the fortress grows heavier. The fortress's bond with the outside weakens. Villagers come and go less. Merchants become more cautious. Caravans turn to more distant roads. This also draws the attention of the Lord inside the fortress. Because the Lord does not maintain order in the fortress only with soldiers. He maintains it with money, with taxes, with the market. When the market weakens, the Lord's hand also weakens. The soldier's stomach weakens. Morale weakens. Sometimes Osman does not even approach the fortress. Not approaching is also a tactic. The fortress expects an attack, but the attack does not come. Yet its surroundings narrow. This is the real pressure. A person sometimes endures the blow that comes, but waiting for the blow that does not come tires more. As winter approaches, there is the summer pasture and winter quarter order. The rhythm of nomadic life changes. Snow falls. Roads become heavier. But in Osman's world, the season of war does not end. It only changes form. In winter, great armies slow down. In winter, heavy units struggle. But small units, if they're accustomed to the cold, they walk even in snow. Osman's Alps light little fire on winter nights, so that smoke will not be seen, so that smell will not spread. Because on the frontier, even smoke is a sign. There is a similar tension on the Balsic side as well. Balsic is a place that looks small, but is key. It has passes. It connects roads. Where there is a road, there is power. Osman Gazi knows that power is not only in the fortress. Power is on the road. Power is in the market. Power is at the waterhead. Power is at the bridge. One day a piece of news comes. A lord is quarreling with a neighboring lord. A lord has weakened from within. A lord has upset his own people. Osman listens to these reports. These reports can be as sharp as a sword, because a crack within the enemy grows more easily than what is struck from the outside. On the Inegal side, the clashes are harsher, because the Lord of Inegal notices Osman's growth earlier, and he does not want to tolerate it. Sometimes raids are made on border villages. Sometimes herds are stolen. Sometimes the road is cut. Such events are very big on the frontier, because a herd is not only animals. It means a tribe's winter. It means a tribe's child. It means a tribe's bread. That is why Osman responds. But he responds in a measured way again, not like revenge, like a lesson. At night, a group of Alps sets out on the road. The scout in front, the horseman behind, everyone silent. Along the road, only the wind is heard, and the horse is breathing. A stream is crossed. The waters are cold. The moonlight is weak. Reeds on the shore. Among the reeds, sometimes a bird wakes. It flutters its wings, then silence again. On nights like these, a person's inside also grows. Fear grows, courage grows, memories grow. Osman's Alps walk with these feelings. When there is a raid, the target is clear. The target is to catch the weakest moment. It is not only striking while everyone sleeps. There is also striking when everyone's attention is scattered. There is a feast day. There is a market day. There is a wedding preparation. On some days, the inside of the fortress is looser. Osman takes this into account as well. The Yarisar narratives carry such a psychology. If the fortress thinks it is safe, attention decreases. The guard grows lighter. The gate opens more easily. Osman's intelligence works here. A plan is made. The plan sometimes takes weeks, sometimes months. It is not a one-day job. Gifts are prepared. Fabric is prepared. Salt is prepared. Oil is prepared. A wedding is used as a pretext. An invitation is used as a pretext. Because when a person hides behind an everyday thing, he suspects less. Life on the frontier already goes like this. Everyday life and war mix into each other. One day a market is set up. The next day there is a raid. One day a feast is held. The next day there is a siege. Osman's Alps carry discipline within this chaos. Discipline keeps them together. Because if discipline breaks in a siege, you cannot take the fortress. If discipline breaks in a raid, you cannot return. In a process that leads to Koyan Hisar, there is such a discipline as well. This war does not break out suddenly. Before it, there are hundreds of small frictions, hundreds of small border disputes. When every dispute accumulates, one day a great confrontation becomes inevitable. For Byzantium, Osman is no longer an ordinary frontier bey. He has begun to be seen as a threat, because Osman is not only striking and fleeing. Osman is holding after he strikes. Osman is establishing order where he holds. This is dangerous in Byzantium's frontier world, because someone who establishes order on the frontier over time attracts more people, attracts more soldiers, attracts more merchants, attracts more hope. Before Koyan Hisar, Osman's soldiers gather. Gathering is not only coming together. It means provisions. It means horse feed. It means arrows. It means spare bows. It means bandages. It means water skins. Half of a war is won before fighting. It is won with preparation. Osman knows this. He takes preparation seriously. The soldier's morale is also important. To raise morale, it is not necessary to shout. Sometimes a leader's calm stance is enough. Osman stands calm. This calmness passes to the soldiers. The soldiers also calm down. The soldier who calms down sees better, hears better, moves more correctly. As the day of battle approaches, reconnaissance increases. They look at how the Byzantine units are arrayed. They look at where the heavily armored ones are. They look at where the archers are. They look at where the cavalry units are. The weak point in an army is often its flanks. Because the center is strong, there's a gap on the edge. Osman looks for the gap, and when he finds the gap, he uses it quickly. When the battle begins, dust rises. Horses run, arrows fly, shields ring. But in Osman's world, even within this noise, there is a rhythm. If the rhythm breaks, the army scatters. The Byzantines want to advance in an orderly way, slowly, in rows. Osman, however, breaks the rhythm. He strikes fast, pulls back, strikes again, pulls back again. It comes like a wave. It hits the shore, then it recedes, then it hits again. If the enemy cannot get used to this rhythm, he gets tired. The tired enemy's mistakes increase. The one whose mistakes increase, his fear increases. The one whose fear increases, his order breaks. The most critical moment of the battle is the moment when the enemy's order first breaks. At that moment, Osman's cavalry enters the gap, enlarges the gap, then a small breach opening from one place to another becomes a great rupture. After Koyan Hisar, the news spreads. News is like the wind. First the nearby villages hear, then the towns hear, then distant places hear. Osman won, it is said. This sentence is short, but its effect is great. This news brings new Gotsis, brings new Alps, brings new tribes closer, because people want to go to the winner. But even more importantly, people want to go to the one who establishes order. Osman's rise grows like this, not with one day, not with one war. It grows with many small steps. Among these steps, sometimes there is also pain. On the frontier, loss is inevitable. In a raid, an Alp falls. In a pursuit, a horse is lost. In a winter, a child gets sick. In a rain, a tent collapses. Osman lives these too. A leader's heart does not grow only with victory. It also grows with loss. Loss gives a person measure. Measure gives a person justice. Osman's justice is also nourished by this measure. When sharing booty, he wants measure. He wants everyone to know his share. If there is injustice, unity breaks. If unity breaks, one cannot live on the frontier. For this reason, Osman, sometimes even if it is his most beloved Alp, warns the one who does wrong, sometimes punishes, because he protects not the person, but the order. Protecting order is as important as conquest, because conquest is momentary. Order is continuity. When a fortress is taken, everything does not end immediately. The real burden begins afterward. A guard schedule is made. The gate order is set. The market is reestablished. The people's fear is reduced. Osman's men sometimes go to the peasant. They tell the peasant this: do not be afraid. Sow your crop. Graze your animal. Use your road. These sentences seem simple, but for people they're very great, because fear is sometimes sharper than a sword. The leader who reduces fear conquers people's minds. That is why Osman's conquests become permanent. They are not built on destruction. They are built on holding on. Not only stone is taken, not only land is taken, hearts are taken too. And after a while, people realize this. Where Osman comes, there is a measure, there is an order, there is a word. If the word is kept, a person relaxes. And when a person relaxes, life begins to flow again. On the frontier, for life to flow means the birth of a state. In Osman's last years, the body is slower, but the mind still works. While sitting by a fire, a rider brings news. That lord has stirred, he says. That road is closed, he says. That village is afraid, he says. Osman listens to each of these reports. Each report falls on his shoulder like a responsibility, and he takes every responsibility as seriously as on the first day, because founding is not raising a sword once. It is keeping the same seriousness every day, and the nights are long again. The stars are bright again. The wind speaks again. Osman sometimes goes out. He looks at the sky. He remembers that dream, perhaps. He remembers the moon. He remembers the tree. He remembers the shadow. Then he goes back inside, because his work does not end with looking at the sky. His work is to hold the order on the ground. Around Karakhisar, the days resemble each other. But no day is the same. Morning begins as if the same, but evening ends differently. There are those who wake before sunrise. The sentries are awake. The ashes of the fire are stirred, because they do not want the fire to flare. They do not want smoke to rise. On the frontier, even smoke is an invitation. It calls the enemy. Osman's men move silently. Some go to water. Some go to wood. Some go up the hill for reconnaissance. Some look after the horses. The horses' sweat is wiped. Their hooves are checked. If the horse gets tired, the warrior also gets tired. Osman often rises early in the morning. Every morning, he looks at the same place. The silhouette of the fortress is there. Stone walls look cold, even from afar. The fortress thinks itself strong. But Osman does not look at the fortress as stone. The fortress lives with the people inside it. It fears with the people inside it. It hopes with the people inside it. First, the surrounding villages are important. The villages around the fortress are the fortress's breath. Villages bring produce. Villages bring news. Villages work. If the villages are afraid, the fortress is left alone. That is why Osman does not burn the villages. He does not scatter the peasants. He does not look at the peasant as an enemy. He looks at the peasant as tomorrow. If you want to establish an order, you do not burn tomorrow. The villagers are suspicious at first, because on the frontier, everyone is suspicious. On the frontier, trust is not born easily. When the peasant sees Osman's men, he withdraws. He takes his children behind him. He pulls his animal. Osman knows this. So first a word goes. Not a harsh word. A soft word. A short but clean word. So your crop, they say. Graze your animal, they say. Go to your market, they say. Do not be afraid, they say. These words are not said once. They're said again and again, because trust is not born once. Trust is born again and again. It is born a little every day, as the roads leading into the fortress are held. The Lord inside becomes uneasy. The Lord's unease passes to the soldiers. The soldiers' unease passes to the people. The people's unease passes to the market. When the market weakens, the fortress weakens. Inside the fortress, one day bread decreases. One day salt decreases. One day wood decreases. One day oil decreases. The people inside the fortress struggle not with hunger, but with uncertainty. Hunger comes and goes, but uncertainty gnaws at a person. When will it end? How long will it last? Who will endure? Who will flee? Osman places uncertainty inside the enemy. This is also a tactic. He does not strike with his sword, but he tires with waiting. On some days, the fortress gate opens. A few people come out from inside to get water, to gather wood, to graze animals. Osman's scouts watch this moment. They learn the rhythm of the opening and closing of the gate. How long does the gate stay open? How many people come out? Who gives the command? Where do the archers line up? These details seem small, but a fortress is taken with small details. The Alps beside Osman sometimes grow impatient. Let's go to the base of the wall, they say. Let's set ladders, they say. Let's attack, they say. Osman remains calm again. Some days he only nods his head. Some days he says a sentence. The wall is stone, he says. Inside is human, he says. Human is not stone, he says. That sentence, in fact, tells everything. If a person's patience breaks, the stone wall is left empty too. On the Inagal side, patience works in another way. There the clash happens more often. There is more herd struggle. There is more road cutting. There are more small raids. The Lord of Inagal notices Osman's rise early. That is why he acts harsher. Sometimes he sends watchers. Sometimes he provokes the peasants. Sometimes he makes small provocations on the border. Osman does not fall for these provocations, but he also does not ignore them. On the frontier, to ignore can be understood as weakness. Osman's response is measured, a small but clear response. Night comes. The moon goes behind the cloud. The sky becomes darker. Is it those hours that small units set out? The journey is slow. No one hurries. The one who hurries leaves traces. The one who leaves traces is caught. They enter a valley. Inside the valley, sound grows, because the hills rising like walls return the sound. That is why they walk even more silently in the valley. They climb a hill. The hill is windy. The wind cuts the face, but the wind also carries smell. The smoke of the fortress comes with the wind. The smell of the fortress's fire comes with the wind. An Alp stops for a moment. He smells the air. Sometimes even the nose is reconnaissance. If Osman's men are to set an ambush, they first think of the return route. An ambush is not only striking. An ambush is being able to return. You strike, then you disappear. This is the rhythm of surviving on the frontier. In a raid, the target is often not greatness. The target is to disrupt the order. It is to tell the enemy, I am here. It is to tell the enemy, I am still standing. After these raids, the lords lose their sleep. They wake at every sound at night. They look at every shadow. They listen to every wind. This state is the state that tires a fortress the most. If the person inside the fortress gets tired, even the sword becomes heavy. The plans told around Balsik and Yarhisar use human psychology, because sometimes a fortress is not opened by war, but by trust. Trust is a strange thing. If it opens once, it opens a gate. But if trust is broken, it builds a wall. Osman's circle watches the daily life of the lords. Which day is the market set up? Which day is a feast held? Which day is a wedding? On which day do more people go in and out? On those days, the fortress may be more relaxed, because while people are having fun, attention decreases. Sometimes Osman's men look like ordinary merchants. They bring fabric. They bring salt. They bring oil. They bring gifts. These things that are brought are not only goods. These things that are brought carry information. How many guards are there when entering through the gate? How many soldiers were seen inside the fortress? What is the Lord's face like? Tense? At ease? Sometimes a face tells the state of the fortress. In the process approaching Koyan Hisar, the crowd around Osman grows. Growing crowded is good, but it is also difficult because the crowd must be managed. The crowd must be fed. The crowd's morale must be preserved. The crowd's discipline must be ensured. Osman loves discipline. Discipline, for him, is not harshness. Discipline is a way of surviving. Before a war, an order is established. Who will stand where? Who will listen to whom? If there's a withdrawal, where will they withdraw to? If there is a gathering, where will they gather? If there is no answer to these questions, panic breaks out in the middle of war. If panic breaks out, you lose. Osman does not want panic. That is why he loves preparation. On the morning of Koyan Hisar, the air smells different. There is a smell of a war morning. The soil smells drier. The grasses smell sharper. The horse's breath smells warmer. The soldiers do not speak, because when you speak, fear becomes visible. If fear becomes visible, it spreads. Osman does not speak much either. He only walks. He only looks. He only stands. A leader's stance passes to the soldiers. Osman's stance is calm. A calm stance calms the soldier. A calm soldier sees better, aims better, moves at the right time more correctly. When the war begins, everything speeds up. But Osman's mind does not speed up. His mind stays calm. This is a big difference. The first arrows are shot. Shields rise. Horses run. Dust rises. The sky becomes blurred. Sometimes in war a person hears only sound. Seeing becomes difficult. That is why commands are important. That is why signals are important. That is why the plan spoken beforehand is important. Osman's cavalry moves. Speed is their weapon. Byzantium's heavy-armored ones are slow. The one who is slow struggles against the one who is fast. Osman uses this. They strike quickly. They withdraw quickly. They strike quickly from another place. The enemy is confused about where to turn. When he is confused, the order breaks. When the order breaks, a moment comes. A small gap opens. At that moment, the fate of the war can change. Osman is someone who watches for that moment. When that moment comes, he enlarges the gap. When the war ends, fatigue descends. Even victory tires, because victory also has a price. Many do not return. Many horses do not return. Many arrows do not come back. But victory has something. It carries news. News is faster than the wind. The news Osman won spreads. This news brings a crowd at once. But Osman seems as if he does not accept the crowd immediately. First he measures. First he recognizes. Because when many people come, confusion inside can also grow. For Osman to grow is not only to expand, it is to grow in an orderly way. That is why on some days there are long talks. There are talks among the Alps. Booty is discussed. The border is discussed. The newcomers are discussed. Osman wants justice here too. Everyone's share must be known. Everyone's right must be protected. Because if injustice grows, rot begins from within. Rot from within is more dangerous than an external enemy. Because Osman knows this, sometimes he seems harsh, but his harshness is not anger. His harshness is measure. Measure keeps the order standing. And as days pass, Osman's story grows even more. But even as it grows, it does not speed up. It walks slowly, but it walks. Night comes again. Stars appear again. The wind speaks again. Osman sometimes goes out alone at night. He looks at the distant silhouette of the fortress. He watches it as if watching a tree. He makes it grow as if making a shadow grow. Then he goes back inside again, because his work does not end. The founder's work never ends. Night deepens a little more. Silence becomes heavier. The number of those sitting by the fire decreases, because everyone knows long nights are the herald of long days. Osman does not speak much on nights like these, and when he speaks, his voice does not rise. Raising one's voice can be perceived as weakness on the frontier, so he remains calm. Calmness is his strength. On some nights, the wind changes direction. When the wind changes, everything changes. Smells change. Sound change. Even the direction of danger changes. Osman listens to the wind. The wind brings him the smell coming from the fortress. Sometimes the smell of smoke. Sometimes the smell of baked bread. Sometimes the smell of burnt oil. These smells tell the condition of the fortress. One day the wind brings a weak smell from the fortress. This smell is not the smell of abundance. This smell is the smell of unease. Osman senses it, because on the frontier, a person also thinks with smell. That night the scouts walk longer. They climb a hill. Below, the lights have diminished. The fortress is not as lively as before. This is a sign. Every sign opens a door. But Osman still does not hurry. He does not like haste. The hasty one's foot trips. A tripped foot falls. Morning comes. Fog settles into the valley. Full black sight. But it also makes approaching easier. Fog is sometimes a friend, sometimes an enemy. Osman waits for the day when fog is a friend. Because fog makes walls look shorter, makes distance uncertain, forces a person to be cautious. One day the fog becomes thick enough. Sounds are muffled. Footsteps are swallowed. On that morning, movement begins. But this movement does not happen by shouting, does not happen by running. Everything advances slowly. A group of Alps goes ahead. A group waits behind. A group scatters to the sides. This scattering is not accidental. Each one's place is known. They do not even approach the fortress gate. First, the surroundings are held. First, the roads are cut. First, the flow of news is stopped. If a fortress cannot receive news, it collapses faster because a person fears what he does not know. The soldiers inside the fortress wait for news from outside. The Lord waits for news, but news does not come. This silence stabs like an arrow. As the day goes on, the fog disperses, but the uncertainty does not disperse. The uncertainty remains inside the fortress. Osman does not attack that day, but everyone knows this silence is the herald of something. The next day passes calmly again, but this calmness is like the stillness before a storm. To take a fortress is sometimes not striking. Sometimes it is making it wait. making it wait. Whereas a person out from within. On the Inagal side, waiting is more tense because their conflict is frequent. Their blood flows more quickly. Their patience is harder. Osman wants more frequent reconnaissance around Inagal. He wants more frequent news because a harsh enemy must be watched more carefully. One night news comes. Troops have been massed near a village. This massing is silent, but its intention is not silent. Osman does not react immediately. First he asks, how many people? In which direction? How long have they been there? Before the answers to these questions come, he does not take a step. Then a small unit goes out. Not big, small enough not to draw attention, but agile enough. This unit does not attack directly. First it appears, then it disappears, then it appears again. This makes the enemy angry. An angry enemy makes mistakes. An enemy who makes mistakes opens the door. That night a small clash happens. It lasts a short time, but its effect is long. After this clash, the Lord of Inagal becomes harsher. But becoming harsher sometimes means panic. Panic breaks order. Osman watches this hardening because the enemy's emotion is part of strategy. Days pass like this, sometimes with blood, sometimes with waiting, sometimes with silence. Meanwhile, the order around Osman also grows. New people come, new tribes draw near, new responsibilities are born. Osman does not give a sword to the newcomers immediately. First he looks, listens, gets to know them, because on the frontier, one wrong person can destroy a fortress. One wrong word can break unity. That is why Osman acts like he is choosing people, not like he is choosing weapons. Choosing people is harder. One day after a long siege, a fortress gate opens. This opening does not happen with a scream. It happens with silence. The gate opens slowly. Some people come out from inside. Their heads are lowered. Their eyes are tired. Osman watches them from afar. He does not approach. He does not shout. He does not threaten. Someone who steps forward speaks. His voice trembles, but his words are clear. Osman listens. Then he nods. This nod is not a sword swing. It is a nod of acceptance. The fortress has been taken, but there is no looting, no warning, no screaming. This silence is sometimes the strongest sound. People enter the fortress, but the first to enter are not soldiers. They are the people of order, those who think about the market, those who think about water, those who think about guard duty. Because Osman knows, if order is not established on the first day, it is harder to establish later. The people inside the fortress are afraid on the first day. They watch on the second day. They ask on the third day. They get used to it on the fourth day. Getting used to it is stronger than conquest. That is why Osman's name spreads. Sentences begin that start with when Osman comes. The end of these sentences, most of the time, does not end with fear. It ends with calmness. Days pass. A new frontier forms. But on the frontier is not a line. The frontier is a feeling. Osman manages the feeling of the frontier well. He does not go too far forward. He does not stand too far back. Because if balance breaks on the frontier, everything breaks, and time flows heavily again. Osman grows older, But the burden does not lessen. Every morning, a new piece of news comes. Every evening, a new thought is born. Osman sometimes remains silent for a long time by the fire. He looks at the flames. The flames change shape, but the fire remains. Perhaps he thinks this to himself. I'm like fire too. My shape is changing, but my intention is not changing. Intention, for Osman, is the most important thing. If the intention is right, a way is found, time is found, patience is found, and the story continues to flow without haste. Good night. You let go. Sleep takes you gently, carrying with it the wisdom of those who came before and the hope of those who will come after. Rest now. Rest well.